and more fun.
They're moving his stuff to ESPN Plus too.
Done.
Good.
Are we recording? Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, you guys know I'm a humble guy. I don't like to make things about myself, but just for this one time, change of pace, I'm going to talk about myself for a second. 6 leagues this year, 5 playoffs, 5 week 14 matchups, and can you guess how many of those I won? Any takers?
How many?
Yeah, just shout them out. Zero. That's not a bad guess.
2.5.
2.5.
5.
Yeah, Kieran.
Oh.
Cheers to 5-0 in week 14, baby. Let's see how I pour this.
My gosh. You got an orange slice for that? Blue Moon?
Just poured a Blue Moon out. No orange slice needed because all the sweetness is in those victories, baby.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
It's a sipping beer.
Stupid question.
Welcome to Guys Being Dudes Fantasy Football. This is your host, Noah Obstfeld, and as always with me are my 3 super handsome and super important co-hosts, Kieran Day, Michael Smith, Jerry Williams in the house. Guys, it's week 15. This is where
we're here.
This is where the I don't want to say men become boys because I feel like that's kind of like out of touch.
It's when guys become dudes.
It's when guys become dudes, and that's
it's when you make your money. It's when you make your money back.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, when you put it like this, it sounds sad, but welcome to the show. You can follow us on Twitter at Dudes Football. We're on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and more, but not just those ones I listed. Let's get right into it. But yes, as I said, 5-0 in the first week, looking pretty good going to the next one. But let's talk about what we all want to talk about: Monday Night Football, Ravens versus the Browns. One of the best games I can remember in my life. It was a out of the chair, back and forth, high scoring, 80 points thriller, 90 points almost. I mean, the last time I can remember being this excited for a game was Rams Chiefs, and I think 20, where I think it was almost 90 or 95, maybe even 100 put up in that game.
That was a good one.
And then this one was like the most rushing touchdown since like the Model T was running off the factory floor. Like, geez, what a game. But even more important was it was the Lamar pooping game. We got to like iron out in the football community the nickname, but I think that it's going to bring us together to make sure that we pick the right name for this. So any off the top of your head to kind of get the ball rolling with that?
Oh, just the Paul Pierce of football.
Paul Pierce.
I don't know if that's really good. I don't really know if that's going to stick, but
the truth.
But
I mean, all that matters is you put up 30 fantasy points.
The 4th and 5 touchdown to Marquise Brown has got to be one of the greatest regular season plays of all time.
It was incredible. And it seems like all these really, really good regular season NFL games just so happen to be the ones that are flexed to primetime games every week. It's like none of these 12 o'clock games get to this kind of level.
I don't know, man. That is a good point. Is it Illuminati?
I think so. I think
maybe.
Must be
and
the
thing
only
about
solution.
that touchdown was, not only was it have huge fantasy implications and huge implications for the game, like the Browns were surging back in the fourth quarter, and I mean that on the field and off the field. The Browns were surging back in Lamar's pants, and they were also surging back into the game. And that touchdown was needed. It had me on the edge of my seat. I was absolutely tilting. I was
Luckily,
running around
Lamar
my house.
was deeper in his seat.
Yeah, he was in deep shit, and I was in slightly deeper shit, less deep shit. And I was, talking to my roommates who probably didn't care at all. I'm just like, oh my God, if this combination of things happen, I'm gonna do this or that. And it was just, it makes it that much more fun. Like in that panic, you realize how much you care about fantasy football and how this little game can really make or break your week. So it was a great football game. And after on Twitter, you see tons of people losing games over this game, winning,
Yeah.
a backdoor spread on the safety at the end, all these different things. It's just
ultimate,
like, it's
an
great to see.
an all-time bad beat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Final seconds, the ball, they were lateraling it, went to the back of the end zone. They safetied, and that gave the Ravens the spread.
Or
But-
a lot of people with Kareem Hunt getting that catch and then starting to no longer getting the Kareem Hunt yard points that would have gotten him to win. Oh,
There's 100 ways you could play it.
agonizing
But
defeats.
the other big storyline of the week, Jalen Hurts had his debut as the Eagles starting quarterback against one of the toughest defenses in the league, the New Orleans Saints. And it's got to be the biggest upset of the season. I can't think of one. They beat them. It was a close game at the end, but honestly, the Eagles were a much better looking team. And this is when Taysom Hill really got exposed. Like, if you have a above average defense, no matter what's kind of happening on the other side of the ball, obviously good things are happening. But this is where they say, hey, we need Drew Brees back if we're going to make a serious playoff run. But I took some notes on Hurts. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Don't worry, guys. But played confidently, keeps plays alive way better than Wentz. He used to keep it alive back in the good old Wentz days, but he can't do it this year. It's like that simple.
Tear of the ACL.
He looks like Patrick Mahomes moving out of the pocket. Doesn't throw it like Mahomes, but kind of keeping the plays alive. And then that's great for the tight end. That's great for the slot guy. And he has a QB rushing floor, which is unlike. I mean, he's like, I'd say Lamar light. I think he's got like a nice 45, 50 rushing floor. We'll see how that develops. And he can complete throws. He doesn't have these terrible anxiety that Wentz has developed. And I mean, I don't know how much relevance going to be this year, but Dynasty, he's a second round quarterback. I mean, this guy's, he's built to last. So, pay attention. But
Question, not to put you all on the spot.
Please.
We have this or that coming up, but I got to do it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles play the Cardinals. Who scores more, Jalen Hurts or Kyler Murray?
In fantasy?
I think it's a legitimate question.
It really
I think I'm excited for this game. I think it's going to be
But
a really entertaining game. It's Kyler. It's Kyler. Kyler will score more.
I think
I trust Kyler more.
Safer. Yeah.
Kyler's definitely the safer.
It's also just you also see this type of storyline develop where a guy like Jalen Hurts is a special talent and brings something that's so different than the predecessor. They come in, the defense doesn't exactly know what's going on. You have a huge first game. Now there's a little bit of tape. What do you have, like 4 or 5 pass attempts before this game? There's a little bit of tape for Arizona to study up on, and you kind of see a little bit of regression typically in the second or third game after like a huge blow up first effective time on the NFL field. But it's, to all of Noah's points, I mean, he just keeps plays alive. So with that and having that fantasy baseline, it's hard to see him busting. That's the way I say it.
That's interesting. I mean, I after one game, I don't know if we should say anything, but you got to make decisions sooner than later if you're gonna capitalize on potential.
I think the big thing with that is you can feel confident starting him in your playoffs if you need to start a QB. I feel like you said, he's got that great floor. You can throw him in. This helps Miles Sanders, obviously. And then going to the Saints side of the ball real quick, I know Taysom didn't play that well, but Alvin Kamara, guess how many catches he had?
How many?
7 catches on 10 targets.
Cool.
He put up a 20-plus point fantasy week. I mean, it's just something to look at. A lot of good storylines. Moving on to a different game, we got DJ Moore coming back versus the Packers, coming off the COVID list. We don't know how that's going to affect Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson, but good to see them have their guys back, even though CMC is doubtful for the week. We'll see how that goes. Mike Davis, obviously plug and chug, should be an RB1 again in PPR. Brandon Cooks expected to return versus the Colts. Good to have him back. Matthew Stafford doubtful. If Matthew Stafford's not playing, I feel like the only line you can start is TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift. What do you guys think?
Up. I mean, I don't know it's Chase Daniel coming in. You don't have a huge idea over his kind of tendencies. He did come in a little bit last week, but I guess if you're going to start a pass catcher, it is Hawkinson. Yeah, I mean, actually, I didn't think of the rest. Who else you're starting in a pick?
It's just Marvin Jones is the only.
Yeah, you're not going to pick any tight end off waivers. I mean, what about?
But you can be confident starting Hawkinson.
Well, would you go? Okay, Deebo Samuel's out for the rest of the season. We'll get into that in a sec. But would you go Jordan Reed or Hawkinson with Chase Daniel?
Hawkinson.
Jordan
I'd
Reed.
go Hawkinson.
I'm going Hawkinson too, but I don't think it's that crazy.
Yeah.
Jordan Reed's going to be on a lot of waivers. So
Versus the Cowboys for sure.
But I think Chase Daniel's still like he's a much better backup than most backups. So you can expect like a floor for the receiving. Julio, this is kind of a classic Julio kind of. I feel like he's going to be done for the season. Why are they putting him out there? I mean, they got to get a new coach this year. They should pump some life into the team. There's no reason for him to be out there. And then again, CMC, Christian McCaffrey. Again, why is no reason to be out there? So we think about politics in teams a lot, and like why did there's obviously not all decisions are because of football. There's a lot of politics. There's you can't always assume teams that just want to win every game. It's just not how you're successful. Yeah. So, but what is the philosophy with guys like Julio and CMC? Because we have a guy like George Kittle who's designated to return from IR, but then obviously studs of his caliber are they kind of do this game where they say questionable. Oh, we're thinking about it. I mean, where do you draw the line as a NFL franchise?
I think a lot of these come down to the experience of the player. Like some guys are just guys who want to get out there and play, and that's kind of they have that relationship with the coach, and they know when they're okay to go. And you see guys like Julio with injuries that are like hamstring, tendon type of injuries that are easily re-aggravated, and you make that decision. What is the cost there versus someone like CMC who's been so close to returning 3 or 4 times, just keeps getting nicked up, game time decision type of injuries. He's going to get back. I think he's going to get back out there and play before the season's over. But it's just, it comes down to not only the type of injury, but the relationship you have and the type of experienced player you are. Because some guys are just trusted when they say they're good to go, they're good to go. Like a guy like Kittle, if he says he's good to go, you couldn't have an army go out and stop him from getting on the football field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also as a franchise, a lot of it has to do, and I think particularly in the 49ers case, whether or not it means anything those last few games. Like if the 49ers have any shot when Kittle says he's 100%, he's playing. I think if they're eliminated and Kittle feels like he's close to 100%, they may try to sit him down. But I think a lot of it has to do with where the team is situated.
Yeah, and the franchise. I mean, you look at the Falcons historically; they're not a tanking franchise. They just last year they're start like 2-7 or something, and battle back to 6-9 at the end of the year or something. They're a team when they have Julio, they're an elite team. It's just how it is on offense, at least. They always are in games when they have Julio, so it's kind of that weird fine line you got to walk. But with a new coach, like you said, you got to energize.
I like that. Moving on to the notorious COVID IR list that we get every Wednesday. Last week, some big names: Ronald Jones, Marquise Brown, Henry Ruggs. So let's go quickly through them. Ronald Jones, Fournette becomes a low-end RB2, high-end 3, just out of volume. It's against the Falcons, so there should be a high score. I keep calling shootouts wrong, so I don't know. But it's if Julio isn't there, I feel like it doesn't do much for Ronald. It's kind of he's going to be rushing more, receiving more, but he's a decent start. I picked him up in a league where I might flex him. Would you guys have confidence for Fournette against Atlanta?
Something that's not known about Atlanta is they're one of the top run defenses in the NFL, which is I think it might just be because they're so vulnerable through the passing game. I don't know exactly how that stat works itself out, but they're like 9th or 8th against the run this year, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping Ronald Jones sits out because I have Fournette in a couple leagues, but we'll see how that goes.
He's out.
He's out. Jared, you're about to say something?
Yeah, I mean, when a guy's a healthy scratch the week before, you're never looking forward to starting them the week
it's so
after.
interesting.
But Bruce Arians said he's going to be the lead back if Ronald Jones is out, and Ronald Jones is out. Obviously, you got to take everything.
Officially out?
Yeah, he's on the COVID IR. Had surgery, so I'm guessing they put him on there just because he was at the hospital. I don't know exactly how that works, but a couple other quick ones. We got Marquise Brown, Henry Ruggs to the COVID IR. Hopefully, you're not having to start either of them. Hopefully, they were just on your bench.
But should be a little more volume for everyone else.
Should be a little more volume for everybody else. Yeah, exactly.
And then we got a few guys designated to return from IR. Drew Brees got the green light. George Kittle, like we said, and John Brown. Drew Brees is going to make the whole team better. I mean, everyone gets a bump except for Taysom Hill, probably. And then George Kittle. I mean, you're throwing him in over anyone, maybe except if your name is Kelsey or Waller. Or maybe Mark Andrews. I don't know. We'll deal with that in 16. I picked him up 2 weeks ago. He's just sitting on the waivers with the IR tag, and I was like, that might happen.
Maybe. They're in the playoffs
Quick-
picture still.
Quick
As of
thought.
right now.
I just thought of something. If say Drew Brees plays this week, which I'm not sure if that'll happen or not, but if Drew Brees plays this week and Taysom Hill gets snaps at tight end again and gains that fantasy tight end eligibility, is that somebody? I'm just thinking about this right now on the spot. Is that somebody is that something you guys would consider throwing in your tight end position in championship weeks? I mean, they've seen what he can do as a quarterback, and now he comes in for those
I don't
wildcatish
think
plays that he was using.
I don't think they're going to reclassify him. It's too much political.
I don't know how
drama.
that process works.
If
but
they would,
that'd be
though,
interesting.
If they did, I guess, yeah, because they can throw in for a gadget player too, and that could be a 50-yarder down to Michael Thomas or something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Exactly. Anyways, then we got John Brown. I guess Cole Beasley takes a hit kind of back
Gabriel
to his
Davis.
wide receiver 3. Gabriel Davis kind of out of the question. Let's get into dude and dud of the week. We had an all-time bad week this past week, I think.
Dudes.
I'll just bang through them. Dudes with Stafford, but Marvin Jones caught that ball, 50-yarder. So, I mean, Stafford had more like probably 15 points, still a bad week. Robbie Anderson, decent week. Colin Johnson, bad. Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, how is that a bad week? 14 points is solid.
I said not a bad week.
Oh, I thought you said historically bad dud week.
Oh,
for all
well,
of
okay.
us
I mean, it was just
as
and
a
then
whole.
dud was I picked Kareem Hunt who had a career day.
Don't say it.
Mostert had a pretty dud. Tyreek Hill 24.6 on 4 touches, 6.125 points per touch. That's a touchdown and change, baby.
I was
and then
sitting so pretty, and then they gave him that little sweep, and he took it
They're
35.
like, here's nothing. Go dominate. And then Chase Claypool, 3 points. That's a nice one. So, okay, maybe not as bad as I said, but let's get into this week. I'm going to start off with my dude of the week. And
It's just Mike's pick.
It's Derrick Henry against Detroit. Now, I know this may come as a surprise, but Derrick Henry is actually one of the best running backs in the league. Last week, he went for over 200 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, and now he's playing an even worse run defense. Derrick Henry against the Lions, I recommend starting him. My real dude of the week is Nyheim Hines. I think he's a decent flex this week against Houston. Colts should be dominating all day. They don't need to run Jonathan Taylor into the ground. He's a start, obviously, but I think Hines is actually a decent flex play in a deeper league. There you go. And also start Derrick Henry.
I had a thought now that you mentioned Nyheim Hines, give a quick shout out. Usually we're sort of to the end of the year. I feel like I can do this. Usually at the end of week 1, we overreact and, number 1 on the waiver wire doesn't really have much value the rest of the year. This year, top 2, probably Nyheim Hines and Mike Davis have been startable. The rest
not James Robinson though. Yeah.
with Mike. Well, James Robinson was
He was going to
maybe drafted.
picked up before the year, picked up before the year when he found out he was going to be the guy. But Mike Davis, everyone thought he was going to lose value when CMC came back, and he just never came back. And now he's been a top 10 running back ever since. So shout out those two. If you were picking last in your draft, you made out well. For me, my dude of the week, Cam Akers. And this is kind of an obvious pick as well. He's been going off, but I think he's going to be a top 3 running back this week. We know the Rams love to run the ball when they're ahead. And they're playing the worst team in football. So not my Jacksonville Jaguars, the New York Jets. So I could see him getting 20 to 25 touches, probably over 100 yards, total yards, and a couple of touchdowns.
Wonderful. love playing him in my fantasy playoffs. All right, I got the Ravens backfield, not Mark Ingram though. Gus Bus and J.K. Dobbins, they're playing the Jags. I feel like they both have a great chance of getting the end zone. I think they're both really good RB2s this week. J.K. Dobbins could have one of the best weeks of his career, I feel like, this week. And Gus Bus, he loves scoring touchdowns. They're both really, really good, and they're playing the Jags. So I feel like they're both going to score.
What does that mean?
Above, over, under, I'm putting at 13, and I think they both can get 13 this week.
Do you have the confidence in Dobbins? Because I've seen this all over the place, this Dobbins breakout. It's time. And he's been very solid. Do you have any confidence to play him, for my own sake, over anybody like Mike Davis or Cam Akers? Would you play both Mike Davis and Cam Akers over him?
I think Mike Davis and Cam Akers are both top
10,
5, top 6 running
5 to 10, yeah.
So
yeah, I got James Robinson, Mike Davis, Cam Akers. I'm playing all 3 over him, just to be clear.
Yeah.
So I got my dude of the week. I had Brandon Ayuk in there, but I think that's a little bit too easy. He's been just phenomenal since he's come back, which has been kind of flying under the radar. I think I saw on Twitter, he has more points per game than Terry McLaurin this year. in the games he's played. He's been just absolutely phenomenal. So I think he's second in rookie wide receivers in points per game. So he's been phenomenal. But I think another 49er who's going to have a big game is Jeff Wilson Jr. I think
Love it.
dude of the week, Jeff Wilson Jr. We've talked about it all year. This 49ers run offense is amazing. It's always been historically with Kyle Shanahan, and Raheem Mostert having some injury troubles, got an MRI. He's not practicing today. Don't think he'll practice tomorrow. So if he's not playing, last time we saw Jeff Wilson Jr. start, he had 3 touchdowns, ended up like breaking his ankle at the end of the game or something, but he put up over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I think that's the type of system they run, is just the guy who's there is going to get all the carries, is going to get a big chunk of carries, and they're all effective with the ball. So I think he's going to have a big week.
Nice. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into the duds. I'm going to start it off. Again, we talked about Stafford being questionable earlier. I mean, he's a really tough guy. So when he is questionable, it's a more serious injury. And DeAndre Swift going against the Titans this week. Lions are going to be down bad, okay? And just like the Twitter account. And DeAndre Swift is not going to be running ahead of a lead, and they're going to be behind, and it's going to be probably not a great game. Hopefully is, but I don't like DeAndre Swift. He was kind of in a backup role last week, 7 carries, and there's no reason they're not fighting for anything, maybe a higher draft pick, if anything. So I'm fading DeAndre Swift a little bit, probably a high-end flex play.
Love it. All right, I'm going Devontae Parker. A little banged up this week. He's playing the Patriots defense, and you got Stephon Gilmore covering him probably. Don't really like him, especially with Tua starting to target guys like Mike Gesicki towards the end zone. So got Devontae Parker.
All right, I'll go with mine. I'm not sure if Devontae Parker's going to play, but if he does, I totally agree with your dud. My dud of the week is Chris Carson of the Seattle Seahawks. He's been super solid all year, and I'm just a little worried this week. I've kind of find myself week after week falling more and more in love with this Washington football team defensive line. They're so much fun to watch. They're a bunch of guys who are just super animated, love playing football, get really after it. And I think that I'm in Seattle with a bunch of Seahawks fans.
As advertised, like
I know he's amazing, and they got that Montez Sweat guy who's also amazing. Kerrigan still, like, they're just really solid up and down the defensive line. And in Seattle here, I'm surrounded by Seattle Seahawks fans watching these games, and I just can't watch this offensive line struggle anymore. Russell Wilson is just constantly under pressure, and I don't know if they're going to be able to hold up against this defensive line. So I don't see Chris Carson having any sort of real ceiling, other than maybe if he slips in for 2 touchdowns, which can happen at any time. But I think you should lower expectations for this week.
Fair.
Interesting. I'm going Adam Thielen, and the Vikings are a little bit weird where they play a really good defense. They have to throw the ball more, and they can't just pound Dalvin Cook. So you'd expect against the Bears that Adam Thielen would have more volume, but I get worried whenever Justin Jefferson has the games that he did last week, and they don't even look at Adam Thielen. And he's been very touchdown dependent. Last time they played the Bears, he did have a couple touchdowns, but if he doesn't score, I think he could very well be under 10 points, and I'd be a little bit concerned with him this week.
Oof.
That was my dud of the week when he played the Bears last.
Yeah.
He got like 4 catches, like 40 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
I think that was the game. Like, Justin Jefferson had a couple touchdowns in that game too. Yeah. But I agree. You got to trust the process on that one. That Bears defense is legit.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Let's move into some DFS. It is getting tight in here. It's getting hot in here. Kieran in the lead with 23 wins, Michael 20, Jared 18, and me falling behind with 17. Quick shout out to Kieran with Eagles defense. Let's replay the clip real quick. Kieran, I think Eagles defense is a stupid idea. That's me saying that last week. And then also calling Jonathan Taylor's breakout game, and Nelson Aguilar with a sweet sneaky game there too. Nice job, Kieran. Still tight. Still anyone's ball game. 2 more weeks of this. We're doing a little special segment this week. We're going to list your lineup, and then you're going to list your like and your hate. Should we just go back to back like hate? Let's do that. So why doesn't someone else start off so I can pick my likes and hates? How's that sound?
All right, I'll go first. So guys I like at their prices right now, especially if you want to be paying up for guys like Derrick Henry at 9,500, Mitch Trubisky at 5,500. This guy has been really solid since he got back that starting role. He puts up around 20 fantasy points a game. He's playing the Vikings. He's got that nice floor with his running ability. He's throwing touchdowns to Allen Robinson, Jimmy Graham. He looks pretty decent, so I really like him at 5,500. He's one of the cheapest starting quarterbacks this week. And then at defense, 49ers D against the Cowboys at 3,100. Seems like too good of a deal to pass up on.
Interesting. For me, I like David Johnson coming back this week. He's good to go. He's running back 24 on DFS at only 5,100. I don't think David Johnson's a very flashy name, but I could see him being a top 15 running back this year or this week if he finds the end zone. And right there, you make your.
I think he's a dud this week, honestly.
Interesting.
Yeah, I will be.
Do you think he's a top 24 running back this week?
No, I'd rather have guys below 24, above him. Yeah,
I take him as a top 24 running back.
We'll see.
I'll go into guys I like this week. One really deep name, ex-Raider, Lynn Bowden. He was drafted by the Raiders this year, traded to the Miami Dolphins. You can get him for $3,600 this week. That's almost the minimum. And last week he had 7 catches for 82 yards. And also for those of you out there who are in really deep, 14, 16 team leagues, he is running back eligible in a lot of formats. So if you're really strapped for running back, he's playing in the slot. He's an electric, speedy guy, played quarterback last year. He's just really good with the football after the catch. And he is playing for the Dolphins, and they have almost nobody going to be playing for them this week on the receiving court. Like Mike Gesicki, questionable to play. Devontae Parker, questionable. Preston Williams, out. He's not playing. So, I mean, there's a good chance that he's one of the only options there. And Tua threw for over 300 yards last week. Not saying that's prescribed that for the future, but if he's going to be throwing the ball, checking it down to this guy, he for the minimum value, if you want to afford a guy like Derrick Henry, he's a great option. Also, my ex-dude of the week, Brandon Ayuk. I kind of tooted his horn earlier. He had 16 targets last week, 16. Wow. And Debo's not playing. It's Debo and Ayuk are like two peas in a pod, which they're basically the same type of player, and whichever one isn't playing is going to get all of the targets. I mean, Shanahan came out that one week and said, "Oh man, we have to scrap the whole game plan because 85% of our game plan revolved around Debo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk." And that's just how he plays. He knows that he can tell you exactly who's going to be the main option, and he's good enough at scheming it that it'll work. So Brandon Ayuk is going to get a ton of targets again. He's going to be involved.
Sweet. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Who do you like this week?
One guy I like, if you couldn't tell, is Derrick Henry. $9,500. Dude, I could spend all 55 on him. He's going to beat some teams. Okay. That's a steal. Then I got another guy I like is Gus Edwards, the Gus Bus for 4,400. And I have a very sneaky, fun play you guys will like in my actual lineup. And then for hate, Lamar, that's a great game last week, buddy. But against Jacksonville this week, I don't think they're really going to need him. I mean,
so patronizing.
You hit him with the buddy.
Great week, buddy.
I mean,
nice game last week, reigning MVP of the league. You did good.
I mean, hey, every time I ran for 100 and threw for 100, I hold my poops in back in the days. So I mean, you just gotta. I mean, he can only do so much, And then that's the only hate I got right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's interesting with Gus Bus being 4,400 and Dobbins being 5,900, and I feel like they have a pretty similar floor and ceiling this week. So we'll see how that goes. A couple guys I hate: Zeke at 6,100. 6,100 for Zeke. Are you serious? Come on, against the Niners? No way in hell. And then Kyler at 7,000 against the Eagles. I think I'm good. His shoulder's still a little messed up.
Yeah.
Got to pass on that price.
Yeah, I like those two. I'm going one that I got burned on for saying I should sell, and this is not how I feel about him as a player. He's an incredible running back, one of the best, especially one of the best undrafted. But James Robinson at RB5 over $7,000. I just don't see it happening against the Ravens. We're going to be down. And yes, he'll get some more receptions this week with Minshew playing, check it down. But I don't see a running back 5 ceiling for James Robinson this week.
Yep, and then the guy that I hate, Dalvin Cook at $9,000. I think Mike's going to touch on him a little later in the show with some of the reasons that we're not buying into this guy right now. Obviously, still going to give you production, but I don't know if the ceiling's going to be there necessarily, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
There you go. And I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson. He's been fantastic all season. Didn't have too bad of a week. 219 and a tud and a little bit of rushing yards this past week. But he got the Colts and then Cincinnati, and he's just losing everybody. I mean, that was a huge receiver decline, a huge receiver, just the amount of they had on the roster, basically. So I just don't think he's going to have the weapons around him. And in these final weeks, you need those boom games, especially from your highest scoring position. And I don't think Watson is going to bring the heat.
Interesting.
Just to give you a little transition into that's not necessarily, I mean, I think you believe that as a DFS hate too, but also we're moving into league losers. So these are players that big name players who have gotten you to the playoffs, maybe even the semifinals in these cases, and just players that we think maybe you should lower your expectations for, or think, in these last 2 weeks, they might not have the best matchups, and just, prepare yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean move off of them or replace them in your lineup. It's just about expectation and where you're going to play your other guys in your lineup. So you might want to shoot for a higher end flex if you have some of these guys.
Yeah, guys that have carried you to the playoffs, now in the conversation to maybe be on your bench, just maybe. So my guy is James Robinson. We've talked about him. He's got Baltimore, Chicago, Indianapolis. The Jags are probably going to get blown out in all three of these games. Maybe not Chicago, but that's a tough run defense to go against. And you can see what James Robinson past couple of weeks, his carries are starting to decline. He only had 12 last week. They're going to be losing. Not going to be using him as much. We'll see how that goes.
It's a bummer too, because I have him all over and I didn't even think about the matchups because he's just such an auto start.
Yeah.
The guy for me, a league loser, is Tyler Lockett. I see him in a bunch of lineups in the playoffs. I've been checking up on my competition and guys who are playing me, and he's still up there in the wide receiver rankings, but he's only been in the top 12 wide receivers one out of the last 7 weeks. And if you take out those huge blow up games he had earlier in the year, he's really been inconsistent, and he has a floor, and that's something that he hasn't had in the past, where he's always kind of been very solid and then blows up with a 2 touchdown performance. But he has a definite floor this season, and he plays Washington, the Rams, and then San Francisco to finish out the year. So it's definitely somebody I would even consider benching. It's one of those where he's someone where if you need it, he could come through at any moment, but he hasn't in the last 7 weeks.
Yeah,
and you keep saying that every week is like
has that floor. Like he doesn't have
by floor.
Right.
I meant
Low
like
floor.
he doesn't
5
have.
points.
Yeah, he has that.
Okay,
he has
gotcha.
that basement that I was referring to. Sorry, I should have made that clear.
And for me, it's a guy you're not considering benching really, and if not a top 2 running back all year. It's Dalvin Cook. And the big caveat here is this is if you are in a week 17 league, they play the Lions in week 17 and he can make up for everything he doesn't do over the next 2 weeks. So this is strictly the next 2 weeks where they play the Bears and the Saints, who have 2 of the better run defenses in the NFL. We know what the Vikings like to do when Dalvin Cook can't get going. They have to throw the ball. And I just don't think Dalvin Cook, I could see him not being an RB1 over these next 2 weeks. And it's not that you're going to bench him.
Yeah.
It's that he won't get that value that you expect out of a guy like Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, exactly. And for here, I'm going to go with another big name guy. He's been, off of his game, obviously, lately, but Ezekiel Elliott with San Francisco and Philly in the last 2 weeks. I mean, but this is a guy you're obviously kind of still in the auto start or nearby, but
No.
I don't know if anybody who
but
drafted Zeke even made
You
the
do not want to
playoffs.
start
That's the
him.
problem. If you drafted Zeke
That's
with
a-
the top 4 pick, are you in the playoffs?
well, there was
I
like
lost.
there was like 5 or 6 first rounders that were complete. I mean, the top 3
Yeah.
especially.
And only
So-
5 or 6 make the playoffs. So
Okay,
that's
Yeah.
what
guys.
happens.
I just need to say this real quick. One of my opponents in a 14-team league semifinals,
Mm-hmm.
he drafted Saquon Barkley second,
Mm-hmm.
and he's playing me, and he has DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Jefferson, Mark
That's
Andrews.
how to
This
draft,
is a
baby.
14-team league with Saquon as the first pick. and this is what I'm going up against.
Yeah, so it exists. There's guys out there in
It's
the
brutal.
playoffs who are thinking about starting Zeke. Don't.
And you're still projected to win. Don't sell your team short.
The
Yeah.
Rams D effect
The Rams D effect.
and the Young Wei Koo effect.
Okay, before we get into week 13, I got a little game I want to play with you guys. Okay. Last week, big player Derrick Henry had a great week. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question for y'all. Did superstar AFC championship contender Ryan Tannehill throw for more yards, or did Derrick Henry rush for more yards? If you know the answer, don't say it. Just let's hear our guesses.
I'm
think
going
no.
Henry. Oh wait, on the
One.
year or last week?
Last week.
Henry.
On the year, yeah, Derrick Henry. No. I know Derrick Henry had 215 or 220. AJ Brown had like 105 himself.
I know Tannehill likes.
Come on, let's hear him. Let's hear the guesses.
I'll
I'm
go
going
I'm going
Henry.
Henry.
We got Henry, and
Henry.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it wasn't a trick question. It was the fun answer. It's Henry at 215, Ryan Tannehill with 212. So I ask you, against the Lions, who do you got this week for more yards, Ryan Tannehill or Derrick Henry?
Oh geez.
Tannehill.
Oh, wait, more yards or
statistically? Can we give
There's
a spread?
something.
Can we
But
give
there's
a spread?
something about Derrick Henry's second game against the Jaguars that brings this out. It's not necessarily him playing a terrible run defense. Well, yeah, the Jags have always had a terrible run defense, but it's specifically the Jaguars that bring out this 200+ yard game. I think Derrick Henry gets maybe 170 tops. I see Tannehill throwing for
I have a better question for this, Noah. Same
Yeah, let's hear
exact
it.
question, but better format.
Okay.
Does Derrick Henry get closer to 200 yards rushing or 200 yards total offense, or does Ryan Tannehill get to 300 closer to 300 yards passing?
Oh, Henry. For
I
sure.
think it's 250.
That's
the better
Henry.
one. 250.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if Henry's gonna have like a. I see him with the ceiling. I could see him having like a 105 and 2 touchdown day. I don't know if he's a 215.
Let me upgrade it again. Okay, if Derek gets within 50 yards, he wins. Okay, who do you got? 50.
Oh, 50.
I'm
That's
going
a lot.
Derek.
I'm taking
I'm
Tannehill.
going Derrick Henry then.
I'll go Derek too.
The right answer is
I'm
Ryan
taking Tannehill.
but it's
Let's
more.
go.
Yeah, that's the right answer, but it's just fun. Okay, got one more. Okay, you know who's another really good player is Lamar Jackson. Don't you guys think so?
I've heard of him.
Great
He's
guy.
all right.
So, did he have more rushing yards or passing yards
Last week?
Rushing.
last week?
I think he had like 140 or something.
More rushing
I'm
yards,
going
more passing
rushing.
yards. We
Going
got
rushing.
rushing, and
Rushing.
Well, I feel like the answer is going to be rushing, but I just watching that game, I felt like he had more passing yards.
he did have more passing yards. It was 160
Let's go.
passing to 124 rushing. Michael, 2 for 2, you win. Cheers to you, buddy. Okay, so we asked this week going against Jacksonville. Let's do another 50-yard spread for throwing. More rushing and more passing. I'm going to go
Ooh.
passing. I think he doesn't need to do as much this week.
Yeah.
I'm going rushing.
I'll go passing.
All right, can
I'll go
someone
rush. I'll go rushing within 50.
Yeah, same.
All right, can someone note that real quick? Okay.
Mhm.
I'll get into the next segment. We started last week with real playoff questions. You could go with this or you could go with that. And we'll just go over the records. Kieran 0-4 through these guesses. Mike, was it 2-2? And then me and Mike, or no, Jared with
That was
8.
for the over under.
Oh,
That was
yes.
for the
That was for the
over-under.
over. Okay, you go with this or you could go with that. Sorry, getting my segments mixed up. Classic podcaster mistake. But okay, we got Jonathan Taylor versus Mike. Miles Gaskin didn't really matter. Miles Gaskin didn't play. Then Chris Godwin versus Terry McLaurin. Chris Godwin won by 0.1, and Kieran was left out in the cold.
That's
Are
sad.
you kidding me?
Corey
That's
Davis,
sad.
2 for 24.
2 for 24, 2 for 25.
Tom Brady doesn't know Chris Godwin exists.
Corey Davis, Mike Jarrett, and Kieran lost on that one versus T.Y. Hilton.
Brutal.
Picked him. Marvin Jones versus Debo. Debo injured very first play of the game, but I'll take the dub with Marvin Jones because he earned it with the 50-yarder that wasn't called. And then Washington D dominating versus San Francisco. Kieran was the only one with that pick. Over under Michael Thomas, 74 yards. Michael got it. Scary Terry, under 81 receiving yards. Michael, Noah, Jared got it. David Montgomery, over 80 rushing yards. Jared and Noah. smashed it on the first drive of the game.
Literally.
Kyler 20 fantasy points. Michael and Noah got it. So Michael and Noah 3-1 with the over under. Congrats to us.
Whatever.
Week 14. Let's run it back because I need help again. Terry McLaurin versus Seattle or Chris Godwin versus Atlanta.
We doing fantasy points or rushing yards?
Fantasy points. Full
Fantasy
PPR. Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin. I'm going.
If Dwayne Haskins is playing, and I hate Dwayne Haskins, I have to go Chris Godwin.
All right, Jerry with Godwin. I'm going.
I'm
If
going
Matt
Godwin.
and Michael.
playing,
I'm going McLaurin.
McLaurin.
Who? Anyone else? Kieran, what you got? He looks
Give me
stressed.
Godwin.
Give me Godwin. He says that looks like.
Wow.
I went 0-4. I really need to think about these this time and not go with all the guys on my fantasy team.
Cam Akers versus the
Last
Jets.
week, my strategy was to go with all the guys on my fantasy team to hope that I will it into existence, and I got to do a
Oh,
little
that's
more
good.
digging this week.
That's
That
good.
seems like the opposite of a Kieran strategy. Usually, you want to bet. Okay, see, you gotta go with your gut, man. Here we go. Cam Akers versus the
Oh.
Jets or Jonathan Taylor versus the Texans.
This is a
This
tough
one's
one.
tough.
So you're doing half
This one's
PPR.
tough.
Half PPR. I'm going JT. Come on.
I
It
think
shouldn't be
JT
tough for
is
you,
safe.
Mike. You said top 3 running back for Akers.
I'm going JT.
Give
Yeah,
me
but maybe
JT.
JT's a top 3 running
Yeah,
back.
Jonathan Taylor
Top
plays the
two.
Texans. The
Top-
Texans have been getting shredded.
Top 3 and not 3.
Give me
I'm going
Jonathan Taylor.
Akers. I'm going Akers. I'm going out on
I knew
a
he'd
God.
put it.
I love the 3v1. It's more fun than the
Yeah.
2v2. Melvin Gordon versus the Bills. JD McKissick versus the
Easy.
Seahawks. Who
Wait,
is
is this
The
PPR
re-
or half PPR?
half?
Happy. The reason I picked this is because Melvin has outscored JD the last 2 weeks in both weeks. They
Give me
both haven't been
JD.
that well, but this could be a serious flex
I'm
question.
going JD here.
I'm going JD. I think
Yeah.
Melvin's a bust this week.
Hold
You're
on.
on.
Hold your horses. Let me look at Melvin here.
Oh no, no looking, man. No
He,
looking.
he
of
scored
time.
like
What's
14
even
2 weeks ago
doing?
and like 11 last
Michael,
week.
who you got? We
I-
got to bang through
McKissick.
these. McKissick.
McKissick.
Kieran.
All right,
Yeah.
give me Melvin. Give me Melvin.
Yeah, we love to see it. Robbie Anderson versus Green Bay. Amari Cooper versus San Francisco.
I'm going
gonna
Amari.
I'm gonna go Amari too. Yeah.
Ooh.
Give
I'm
me
going
Amari.
Robbie. I'm going Robbie.
3 versus 1 all the way around.
Wait, you got? Who did you get? Kieran.
Here I
there?
went Amari also.
My bad.
Amari.
Derrick
This
Henry.
last one.
Derrick Henry versus the Lions. Russell Wilson versus Washington, or
Oh.
Mahomes versus New Orleans. I'm gonna go Mahomes.
I'm going Derrick Henry.
What?
Fuck it. Let's
No
go.
Give
way.
me Mahomes.
I'm
I'm
going.
going
Mahomes.
Derrick Henry. I'm going Derrick Henry.
All right,
Oh.
All right, Russell Wilson.
Henry was the leading scorer last week.
I
Okay,
can see.
that's a fun one. Derrick Henry, Mahomes. Okay, Noah and Kieran. We got California for Mahomes and Texas for Derrick Henry. That's
All
fun
right.
stuff.
That's a fun
Mm.
game.
Here,
I
I'll
love
take us
that.
through over
All right,
under.
going into over under round 2, week 2 edition of over under. It was a rough one for me last week. I'm sorry to the fans. I still haven't thought of a better name, but it's coming. I also didn't check Twitter to see if anybody responded, but I assume a lot of people did. And,
Yeah, a
and
lot of
this week
people.
for sure you're getting
Yeah.
a shout out. I know there was about 20 or 30 tweets we got, but I didn't sift through them to get a winner. So
Mhm.
this
No,
week
we're-
I will put in a little more effort.
We're going on. We got jobs.
Just
We got
send us
families.
an
All
email.
right.
Our
Over
intern's been
under.
slacking for sure.
I know. We should pay him less. Our over under first player of the week, AJ Brown, over under 82 yards.
Against the Lions. Damn, over. That's a tough one.
I'm
Hmm.
feeling the over. I'm feeling over.
I'm going over as well.
Ooh. all
Okay, we
going
got to put. I was gonna go over. We're pushing the line to 95.
Oh shit.
90. That's.
That's
I mean, I'm
I'm
going
taking the
under.
under. I'm taking the under.
Anyone saying? Let's do 90. 90.
Okay,
yeah,
90.
I think
I'll-
90 is better.
I'll take the over.
Okay.
I'll
Kieran
take
with
the over at 90.
I'm going under.
Michael's the only under. Josh Jacobs, 90 yards.
All right, Josh Jacobs, 90 total yards against
Total.
the Chargers on Thursday night football.
Give me
He
that
hasn't been.
over.
He's a little banged up. He hasn't been
Total.
necessarily super involved on third down. What do you guys think? 90 total yards.
Give me the over, baby.
I think with Ruggs out, they're going to kind of contain the game a little more, and I think they'll work him in and give me the over.
Hey, man, he almost had 50 rushing yards last week.
Michael's
Under.
Give me
going
the
under. Kieran's going over. Cooper Cup.
All right. No, this is my segment. All right, you get to host everything else. Let me
sorry,
let me
you're
have
right,
a
you're
little
right.
claim to fame for 1 second.
You're right. I'm just trying to keep it
Cooper
low.
Cup is our third
That's
person.
good.
All right, so he had 5 for 33 and a touchdown last week. I know fantasy managers all over the world were shedding tears as we watched this game until that touchdown saved us. I'm going over under 67 yards against the New York Football Jets.
This is easy. I'll hold off.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold off too. This is easy though.
I feel like
take-
it's not.
I'll
as
take the
easy.
over.
I'll take the over, but it's not as easy because I feel like
This is a smash under. They're gonna run the ball
Yeah, I'm gonna go under too.
all game.
67 though. That's like
If he
Doing it
sees
again, I'm
five,
just
if
rooting
he
for
can see
my-
5 catches again.
But he's a must start still. He's a must start against the Jets because he could go off.
Would you start
he's a must
Cooper
start if
Cup
you're
or
picking
Terry
the under.
McLaurin?
Cooper Cup or Terry McLaurin?
McLaurin.
McLaurin probably, yeah.
Okay.
All right, last one here.
Last one. No, I didn't butt in on this one, so I'm really proud of you. You almost did.
I
but
almost did, but it was more of a
T.Y.
supporting
Hilton.
comment.
T.Y. Hilton on pace for 2,500 yards and 27 million touchdowns in the last 5 weeks is going to be over under 16 fantasy points.
Against Houston.
What did he score
Is
against
what-
Houston
PPR?
a couple weeks ago?
I'm going to make it half
PPR.
PPR.
Half PPR.
Half PPR.
He scored 21 last time they played, so
He
I gotta
scored
go.
20 in 3 straight weeks. I'm hammering the under.
I gotta go over.
Yeah, what's
that's too
stopping
good.
him? I mean, I'm playing him.
I'm
Yeah.
going under. I'm going under.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
We got that
I
nice
think I might go
split.
over 4 again. I think I might go over 4 again.
On his
I'm
own
not confident.
segment.
And I did exactly what I did last week. I said, okay, I have AJ Brown and Cooper Cup over. I'm playing Josh Jacobs and T.Y. Hilton under.
Hey, did it work
Love
out?
it.
How'd you do? in
It
the
didn't work
playoff?
out.
It
It
didn't.
work
Well,
work
it did.
out.
It did. Noah gave himself the self plug. I'm 2 for 2 in the playoffs so far. Me and Noah squaring off again for week number 2
Again.
this week.
Oh, I need updates on that
Oh.
matchup.
Mhm.
Oh well,
We were the top. We were the top 2 scorers last week.
Oh,
Huron bumped me out. I was the top scorer in actually in 3 out of the 5 playoffs. So just yeah. I'm sorry. Did I need to
You want
say
a
it?
pat
No.
on the
Did I
back?
say it? Yes.
well
yes.
done.
I mean, we need to develop some technology, a virtual pat on the back, because I need more. I mean, I need more credit because it's due. Okay, I've been around here a long time,
See how you
putting
we'll
in
see
the
how you
hours,
do.
and they hate
What's
me.
better than
That's all it
this?
is.
Guys being dudes.
Good luck, everybody.
Tweet us.